So the 2021 Stanley Cup Finals will include the Montreal Canadiens for the first time since 1993. Now, this podcast will be taking a look at that 93 campaign, breaking it down for you and basically explaining why there was parallels between the 1986 version of Habs that won the Cup, the 89 Habs that lost to Calgary in 6 games, this squad, and the 2010 and 2014 contenders. Now, when I say a mix, strong goaltending, good defense, and a mix of veterans and young players allowed all those teams to have great success into the Frozen Four. And again, the Stanley Cup appearances were rare, but they were considered top 4 contenders. Now, the campaign was Montreal 76th in the NHL, and they're 84th overall. Now, in the previous season, they had a rough second-round playoff exit against the Boston Bruins, and it marked the third straight time Boston had defeated Montreal in the playoffs. Now, Montreal eventually went on to win the Stanley Cup, the last Canadian team to do it. Now, they finished third in the Adams division and fourth in the Wales, with a very impressive record of 48-30-6, on the backs of a 27-13-2 home record and a 21-17-4 road record. Now, each Montreal game was quite action-packed. Montreal and their opponents combined in their games for 600 goals. Montreal was averaging more than 4 a game, while defense was a little bit over 3 at 280 goals against. Now, in the offseason, Pat Burns, the heralded coach of Montreal, was replaced by former Quebec Nordique St. Louis Blues and Detroit head coach Jacques Demers to take his spot. They made numerous trades in the offseason. The 2 biggest, of course, were getting Vincent D'Anfous from the Oilers and the great Brian Bellows from the Minnesota North Stars. Now, Denis Savard was also named alternate captain that year following Mike McPhee's trade to the North Stars. So they were getting rid of the 1980s generation and bringing in a bunch of new players. They went on to a quick start, first in the Adams division with a 16-5-3 record in their opening 24 games, with Patrick in most of the big victories. However, in the next 19 games, they went 8-9-2, and to fall behind the provincial rivals, the Quebec Nordiques and the standings. Quebec had a really good team that year with Sakic and Hextall and the rest of the youngsters and veterans. Now, from then on, Montreal will get hot, going 17-4-1 in their next 22 games. They take a commanding lead in division, but a late season slump, which allowed them to only win 7 of their last 18 games, allowed them to fall behind the Bruins and Nordiques to finish third in division with 102 points, with a 48-30-6 record. So they were on a pace again for more than 110 points, but it didn't pan out. Now, on January 25th, 93, rookie Ed Ronan scored just 14 seconds in the overtime period to give the Canadiens a 3-2 home win over the Boston Bruins. It would prove to be the fastest overtime goal scored during the season. Now, 4 Canadians that year: Bellows, D'Anfous, Stéphane Lebeau, and Kirk Muller, who was picked up from New Jersey a couple of seasons before, reached the 30-goal plateau. His first season with the team, D'Anfous led the squad, 39 goals and 97 points. Bellows, again, a great scorer, team high 40 goals with 88 points. Muller had 37 goals and 94 points, while Lebeau had a grand total of 80 points. Eric Desjardins, the Stanley Cup hero for Montreal in Game 2 against the Kings, led the blue line with 13 goals and 45 points, while the underrated Matthew Schneider had 13 goals and 44 points. In goal, Patrick played the majority of the games with a 31 wins and a 3.20 goals against average in 62 games. He also had 2 shutouts. Andrew Rasico won 17 of 26 games played with a 3.39 average and a shutout. Now, but there was also some weird rumors. Now, I guess before the trade deadline, Canadiens GM Serge Savard insisted that he would consider a trade for Roy. The Canadiens would end the season by winning only 8 of their last 19 games. So Roy was on the trade block line before the incident involving Mario Tremblay and Réjean Houlin GM, where he gave up numerous goals against Detroit. So at the time, Patrick Roy was still being considered for a trade. You figure he was inconsistent, probably dating back to the Hayward, shared duties and, the losses to Boston. Now, the The All-Star game was played in the Forum with Patrick and Kirk Miller participating, and where the Whales defeated the Campbells 16-6. Again, final season record: Boston first place, 109 points in 84 games, 51 wins. Quebec 47-27-10. Montreal 48-30-6, and Buffalo 38-36-10. The last to make the playoffs. And Hartford only was 28 points behind the top goers, with the Ottawa Senators putrid 10-70-4. Now, overall, Montreal was fourth in the league. Again, third in the Habs division, with the great Pittsburgh Penguins leading the way with a 56-21-7 record. Now, in the playoffs, they opened up against their Battle of Quebec rivals, Quebec Nordiques. Now, they lost both games on home ice, and unfortunately, the Habs lost 3-2 in overtime and didn't show up for game 2. However, a late rally against Quebec at home started a run of 10 straight overtime victories, winning 2-1. Back game 2, he won 3-2 in regulation. Kirk Muller's 5-4 overtime winner against Quebec made it 3-2, and he came back 2 days later with a big 6-2 victory against Quebec, where Pagé took the freak on Matt Sundin and other players at the end of the game. Check the tape. Now, Buffalo had survived Boston, and with McGillney and the other players, we knew it was going to be tough. All 4 games ended in one-goal victories for Montreal, all by the same score of 4-3. They won 4-3 in regulation, game 1 in Montreal, won in overtime 4-3 in game 2, won 4-3 in overtime in game 3, and again 4-3 overtime in game 4. Which put him against the New York Islanders, who had knocked off Pittsburgh in a major upset on a late goal by the Islanders. Now, the Islanders, who won the first 3 games, 4-1 at home, 4-3 in double overtime in game 2. The big Carbonneau goal, 2-1 in overtime in game 3. 4-1 loss in Montreal, and then the 5-2 wrap up in game 5. Now, Toronto and Montreal final would have been predicted, but the lack of call against Gretzky cutting Gilmore in game 6 led to the Kings, winning game 6, and then in Toronto game 7. LA Kings were really ready for Montreal in the first game, winning 4-1, but a improper stick by Martin McSorley, a late challenge by Montreal, allowed Desjardins to score the second of the game to tie it up, and then the 3-2 overtime winner. Now, game 3 back in New York, the Kings overcame an early deficit, but Leclerc scored in overtime on a rush in front of the net in LA. Game 4, same thing, Leclerc scoring in overtime, and of course the big 4-1 victory in the final game that gave the Kings a shock, NHL a shock, and allowed Montreal to win 10 straight overtime games in, like I said, very dramatic fashion. Now, the amount of one-goal games that Montreal won the playoffs is bad enough, but it went 10 in overtime. It drove people completely nuts. Now, the big players for Montreal that year as well was the emergence of Gilbert Dion, who had 20 goals in 75 games. Savard, he had an injury-plagued season, 50 points in 63 games, but good consistent results. Leclerc had 19 goals. Mike Keane had 15. Patrice Bridgewater also had a good year with 30.1 points. Kevin Haller, big 11 goals. The unheralded Benoit Brunet had 25 points, 47 games, including 10 goals. And Gary Leeman in limited play had 18 points in 20 games. Well, it was kind of bizarre, ladies and gentlemen. Guy Carbonneau only scored 4 goals in the regular season, and so did Paul DiPietro, but he opened up in the playoffs. Now, in the postseason, Danfus had 23 points, including 11 goals in 20 games. Muller had 10 goals and 17 points in those contests. Bellows had 6 goals. Paul DiPietro had a big 8 goals, kind of the unheralded white sheep of the squad at the time. Dion had 6 big goals, and Carbonneau only scored 3 goals, but they're all quite big. And LeBeau's big 2 goals in a key contest put him back on the map for the rest of the season, rest of the playoffs. And of course, Eddie Ronan scoring 2 big goals as well. So overall, like I said, a very interesting melange of players. And the only thing that people got scared when Patrick Roy was injured in Game 5 against Quebec. Andre Racicot had to come in, and he almost had a dangerous full period, giving up 2 goals in 18 minutes played. Not a money goaltender, it was the big fear. But Patrick in the playoffs, he showed his mettle, 16-4, 2.13 goals against average, especially efficient against the Kings and the Oilers. Again, Prince of Wales Trophy winners, Montreal, Connie Smythe, Patrick Roy, NHL record 10 consecutive playoff overtime wins, and Eric Desjardins broke the record as being the only NHL defenseman to score a hat-trick in the Cup final game. So again, the whole team, Carbonneau, DiPietro, Leclerc, Savard, Danfous, Jesse Belanger, Stéphane Lebeau, Kirk Muller, Mike Keane, Bou Brunet, Bellows, Lehman, Eddie Ronan, Mary Roberge, Todd Ewan, Gilbert Leon, and Ramage, Schneider, Haller, Oline, Desjardins, Dufresne, Sean Hill, Patrice Brisebois, J.J. Dango. Very good mixture of defenders that year. And again, it's Patrick Roy and Racicot. And this was the last Stanley Cup for Jean Beliveau in management. So that was a marquee as well. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. The most underrated Stanley Cup winner of all time, he had tons of talent. When you have 5 30-goal scorers and 5 defensemen or 6 defensemen that could score 10 goals and get 50 points, a very, very balanced team. Not very good on defense, but he could be very good on offense. Probably one of the best offensive teams for Montreal since the 78 or 79 Habs. Like I said, getting Danfous, McPhee was never going to score 30 goals again for Montreal. He strengthened their team in the offseason. Getting Gary Lehman, who basically was hungry for a cup. Bellows getting his typical 35, 40 goals. But easily if it would have went better. But they would go into slumps because basically the offense, the road, the third period on the road was tough for him that year. Now, I do know that Boston not winning the first round put a whole wrench in everybody else's plans. The expected Boston was going to knock off Quebec or Montreal second round. It didn't happen. That could have easily been Boston's cup, but like I said, it didn't work out. And maybe they were just saying, well, we're going to beat Montreal second round, so maybe we're not going to work at it. But Grand Fewer stoned Boston in that series, and that's what led to the Bruins being extremely disappointed with that season. So, ladies and gentlemen, for like we're doing with our vintage podcast, let us know with a like, comment, or subscribe. I could fully break down other aspects of the 93 series. This is just a pricey version. There was a lot going on, especially some of the big overtime goals on broken plays and and the announcing. Chris Cuthbert actually did the most of the games with Bob Cole as well. Cuthbert is calling the CBC feed for the Habs against either Tampa Bay or the Islanders. I know for a fact that a lot of people are hoping they'll play the Islanders in the final because they enjoyed that 93 series. And of course the Islanders playing Montreal in all those mid-70s sets where they gave all they could against the Montreal dynasty, the early years of Trottier and Gillies and all the key players. So either way, the 93 games can be seen on YouTube. The full, I think Game 6 is out there against the Nordiques. But for Montreal to lose both games in Quebec and to come back and win 11 straight, and then, losing the first game against LA was just destiny, or as we like to say, the goals of the form. Thanks for listening. Bye.